All right, everyone get ready because today we are going deep inside a hidden world, and it's vital to your health.
That's right.
The vascular endothelium.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're probably thinking right now, isn't that just the lining of blood vessels? Well,
Yeah.
get ready for a surprise because this deep dive will show you just how much more there is to the system that we often overlook.
Absolutely.
We're using this fascinating review article from the journal Cell. It's called A Systems View of the Vascular Endothelium in Health and Disease
Great article.
as our guide.
Yeah.
And I got to say, this isn't like a boring scientific paper or anything. It's actually packed with surprises that are going to change the way you think about your body.
Yeah, we're going way beyond just the, simple textbook definition of the endothelium in this deep dive. We're going to understand how this seemingly simple layer of cells
Yeah.
is actually like a dynamic organ, a systemically disseminated organ.
Yeah.
And it has a powerful influence on everything from your organ function to aging.
Systemically disseminated organ. Okay, that sounds kind of intense. Can you break that down for me? Why should I care about this thing I can't even see?
Okay, so think about this. Almost every single cell in your body is super close to a blood vessel. We're talking less than the width of a human hair away.
Wow.
So that means that the endothelium, this thin layer of cells that lines those vessels, forms this huge interconnected network that basically is touching every part of you.
Okay, so it's like a hidden control center, but it's spread out through the entire body.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to see why this is important.
Exactly. And here's the real kicker. Certain endothelial cells, called hemogenic endothelium, can actually give rise to blood cells.
Wait, hold on. Endothelial cells are making blood cells.
It's amazing.
That's crazy. I always thought that blood cells just came from like bone marrow.
Well, it's one of those aha moments that makes you realize how much we still don't know about the human body.
For sure.
It all begins when we're just embryos during development, a process called vasculogenesis.
Okay.
And this is where the very first network of blood vessels forms from stem cells.
Oh, so this is like the foundation of our entire circulatory system.
Right.
But what about like later in life when we grow and we need to repair things?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's where angiogenesis comes in.
You got it. Angiogenesis is like the branching out process where new blood vessels will actually sprout from the ones that are already existing.
Right.
This is so important for wound healing, growing tissues, and even like building muscle after you exercise.
Yeah.
But there's also a dark side to it too. Angiogenesis is important in diseases like cancer,
Oh, no.
where tumors will hijack this process to make their own blood supply.
So it's like vital for life, but it's also something that can be kind of used by disease that's pretty powerful.
It is. And then, once our bodies are fully grown,
Yeah.
the endothelium goes into this phase that's called maintenance and quiescence.
Okay.
And you might think, oh, this sounds like a time to rest,
Yeah.
but it's far from passive.
You mean it's still working even though we're not like actively growing anymore?
Yes.
That makes sense. Our bodies are always like repairing and adapted.
Exactly. The endothelium is always repairing little bits of damage, sensing changes in blood flow,
Wow.
and it's regulating a whole bunch of processes to keep everything running smoothly.
So it's like a tireless maintenance crew working behind the scenes to keep our bodies in shape.
Yeah.
So we've got this huge network of endothelial cells that are working so hard throughout our entire lives. But what exactly are they doing?
Right.
I mean, besides making blood cells.
Okay, well, get ready for another surprise
Okay.
because endothelial cells are masters of multitasking.
Okay.
They perform a whole array of different functions, and each one is crucial for our health.
Oh, wow.
Like take barrier function, for example.
Okay.
The endothelium acts like a gatekeeper and controls what gets in and out of the bloodstream.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's kind of like border control for our organs, keeping out all the bad stuff.
Exactly, and a great example of that is the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
It's incredibly thin, less than a millimeter thick, but it protects your brain from all those harmful substances that are circulating in your blood.
So what happens if that barrier breaks down?
Well, that's when things can go wrong.
Oh.
A breach in the blood-brain barrier can lead to inflammation, infections, and even neurological disorders.
That's scary.
It's a very delicate system that we need for a healthy brain.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just getting started. What other things can these endothelial cells do?
Well, they also manage cell trafficking,
Okay.
which means they control the movement of cells in and out of the bloodstream.
Okay.
It's kind of like a complex traffic control system,
Wow.
directing immune cells to fight infections, letting nutrients reach tissues, and even helping to repair damaged areas.
So it's not just about keeping things out, it's also about making sure the right things get in and can move around.
Exactly, and this
Yeah.
is super important for our immune system.
Okay.
Like when you get a cut,
Yeah.
the endothelium helps guide those white blood cells right to the injury site to fight off infection and help it heal.
That's incredible.
Uh,
It really is like an intricate dance happening inside our bodies with the endothelium calling the shots.
it is, and that's not all. Endothelial
Hmm.
cells also regulate something called vascular permeability.
Okay.
This means they control how substances move between the blood and the tissues. But here's the thing.
What's that?
These permeability is not the same everywhere in your body.
Oh, so different organs have different permeability needs.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I guess some organs need to be more open than others.
Right, exactly. Like think about your liver.
Okay.
It needs to be pretty leaky to allow for that exchange of nutrients and waste products.
Makes sense.
But your brain, on the other hand, has to be super tight to protect that delicate environment.
So the endothelium is like a custom tailor making adjustments for each organ's needs.
Yes.
Amazing. What else can these multi-talented cells do?
Well, they also are super important for blood pressure regulation.
Okay.
The endothelial cells will release substances that control how those blood vessels dilate and constrict, which directly impacts your blood pressure.
Oh, so that's how our bodies maintain healthy blood pressure. It's not just the heart doing all the work.
Right? The endothelium is like that fine-tuning mechanism,
Cool.
making sure that blood flow is adjusted properly to meet the needs of the body. And when this regulation goes wrong, it can contribute to hypertension, which is a major risk factor for heart disease and stroke.
So keeping our endothelium healthy is also essential for our cardiovascular health as well.
Yes.
It's all connected.
It is. And last but not least, we've got to talk about coagulation.
Okay.
The endothelium can walk this tightrope between preventing clots and making sure clots form when you need them.
Wait, so it does both. It prevents A and D promotes blood clotting. How does it do that?
That is a great question, and it's one that scientists are still working on figuring out.
Wow.
But we know that the endothelium plays a crucial role in this balance by releasing substances that either promote or inhibit clotting, depending on what's going on.
So it's like a conductor orchestrating this complex process to keep our blood flowing, but also ready to stop bleeding when we get a cut.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is. And we're just scratching the surface of what the endothelium can do. This review article brings up this revolutionary concept called angiocrine signaling.
Angiocrine signaling. Okay, now you've got me curious. What is that?
Well, it turns out that endothelial cells don't just respond to their environment. They actually control organ function by releasing signaling molecules.
Hold on. Are you telling me that the endothelium is sending instructions to other organs, telling them what to do?
In a way, yes.
Wow.
It's this whole new level of communication inside our bodies that we're just starting to understand.
That's incredible.
And this discovery has totally changed how we think about the endothelium.
Yeah.
It's not just passive. It's a key player in organ development, function, and even regeneration.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Right?
Tell me more about angiocrine signaling.
Okay, so this idea was first discovered in the liver.
Okay.
Researchers found that when the liver was injured, endothelial cells were super important for it to regenerate. And they weren't just providing blood flow. They were sending signals to the liver cells, telling them to grow and repair themselves.
So the endothelium is like a conductor leading the whole regeneration process.
Exactly. And it's not just in the liver.
Oh, wow.
This same thing has been shown in other organs like the brain, lungs, heart, and even bone marrow.
Wow.
It seems like the influence of the endothelium goes way beyond just its job in the blood vessels.
It's like a whole new world of communication inside our bodies that we're just starting to explore. And what I'm hearing is that this has huge implications for our health.
Absolutely. And it all starts with understanding how the endothelium can sense and respond to the physical forces of blood flow,
Okay.
a process called mechanotransduction.
Wait, the endothelium can feel the flow?
Yeah.
Tell me more. This just keeps getting cooler and cooler.
Okay, so think of it this way.
Okay.
The endothelium is like a bunch of tiny sensors lining your blood vessels.
Right.
And these sensors can actually detect changes in blood flow, pressure, and even the stiffness of the tissues around it.
So it's like a built-in feedback system constantly checking and adjusting to keep everything running, right?
Right. But what happens when that system is disrupted?
Oh, that can't be good.
That's when we have problems.
Uh-oh.
Like turbulent flow,
Right.
which is this chaotic swirling flow that happens in areas where the vessels are narrowed or damaged that can actually hurt the endothelial cells
Yeah.
and cause diseases like atherosclerosis.
That makes sense. So keeping that blood flow healthy isn't just good for our hearts. It's also crucial for the health of the endothelium itself.
Exactly. And this connection between the health of the endothelium and the health of our cardiovascular system
Yeah,
is a big area of research these days.
for sure.
But I'm curious, have you ever thought about how the endothelium gets its own energy?
Hmm.
I mean, it delivers oxygen and nutrients to the rest of the body.
Right.
But what about its own needs?
You know what? I've never actually thought about that.
Really?
I guess since it's literally right next to oxygen-rich blood, I assumed that's what it would use.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about the endothelium. It actually mainly uses anaerobic glycolysis for its energy.
Wait, anaerobic. But it's right next to all that oxygen in the blood. Why wouldn't it use that?
There are a couple of theories.
Okay.
One is that it stops the endothelium from using up the oxygen that it's supposed to be delivering to other tissues.
Okay.
It's like this selfless act of energy production.
Wow, so it's putting the needs of the body above its own. That's amazing.
It is. And another theory is that it protects the endothelium from damage from those free radicals, which come from aerobic metabolism.
Oh, right.
It's like a smart way to stay healthy and keep working in that tough environment.
I can't believe how much we're learning about this tiny layer of cells. But with all these new discoveries, how are scientists keeping up with how complex the endothelium is?
That's where technology comes in.
Okay.
Scientists are using these advanced techniques like single-cell analysis to map out all the different types of endothelial cells.
Single cell analysis. I think I've heard of that. It's like zooming in on every single cell to see what makes it work, right?
Exactly. And this allows scientists to see each individual endothelial cell
Yeah.
and how they're different from each other,
Yeah.
depending on where they are in the body and what your job is.
That's really cool.
It's like making this detailed map of the entire world of the endothelium.
So we're talking about a level of detail that we couldn't even imagine a few years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is giving us this whole new understanding of how the endothelium works and how it affects both our health and disease.
Right.
It's showing us a level of complexity that we never even knew existed.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And this knowledge is already leading to new therapies and treatments that target the endothelium.
Okay, so we're moving from like basic science to potential medical breakthroughs.
Yes.
That's exciting.
It is. There's a lot of excitement about the potential of regenerative medicine to repair or replace damaged tissues and organs.
And the endothelium is like a big part of this, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Creating blood vessel networks is one of the biggest challenges in regenerative medicine. Because without blood vessels, any new tissue or organ would just die.
Of course.
But with this new understanding of angiocrine signaling,
Right?
we might be able to engineer tissues that can create their own blood vessel growth.
That would be amazing. Imagine being able to grow new organs in a lab with their own blood supply all ready to be transplanted.
It's a big goal, but it's one that is becoming more and more realistic because of our understanding of the endothelium.
That's so cool.
And the possibilities don't stop at organ transplantation.
Really?
Imagine repairing a damaged heart after a heart attack,
Wow.
or regrowing damaged nerves after a spinal cord injury.
Okay, now you're really blowing my mind. It sounds like the possibilities are endless.
They really are, and that's just one example of how our knowledge of the endothelium is leading to all these new possibilities. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. There's still a lot more to learn about this fascinating world. Okay, so before we get too ahead of ourselves and think about the future,
Right.
let's go back and talk about something a little bit closer to home, like preventive medicine.
Okay.
Because the endothelium is so in tune with what's going on inside your body, it can actually give us some early warning signs of disease. We're talking about changes that happen way before you even feel any symptoms.
Hold on. Are you saying that the endothelium is like a canary in a coal mine for our health?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's one of the most exciting things being researched right now.
Wow.
Scientists are trying to find specific markers,
Okay.
which are molecules released by the endothelium that could show us the early stages of diseases like heart disease or cancer
Right.
or even Alzheimer's.
So instead of waiting for symptoms to show up, we could use the endothelium to see what health risks we might have in the future. I'm in.
Well, it's not that easy, but we are getting closer.
Okay.
Imagine like a simple blood test
Okay.
that could show us these endothelial markers, and your doctor could use that information to give you personalized advice
Right.
on lifestyle changes, diet, or even early treatments to stop the disease from getting worse.
Right. That makes sense. Early detection is key.
Yeah.
But what about diseases that we already have? Can we use the endothelium to see if our treatment is working?
Absolutely. The endothelium is constantly changing based on what's happening in your body, including what happens because of medications and therapies.
Okay.
So by tracking how the endothelium responds,
Yeah.
doctors could see in real time how well a treatment is working and make changes as needed.
So it's like a personalized feedback loop for our healthcare. That's amazing. But let's face it, one of the biggest health challenges we all face is aging.
Of course,
Is there anything we can do to protect or even make our endothelium younger as we get older?
that's the big question.
Yeah.
And while there's no magic solution, there are some promising things being researched right now.
Okay, tell me.
One important thing is to understand why endothelial cells age in the first place. It turns out that these cells are especially vulnerable to damage from oxidative stress.
Oxidative stress, right? The damage from free radicals.
Yeah.
I know it's linked to aging, but how does it affect the endothelium specifically?
Okay, imagine rust building up on a car over time.
Okay.
Oxidative stress causes similar damage to our cells, which leads to inflammation and things not working properly.
Oh, no.
And in the endothelium, this can mean that our blood vessels stiffen up, blood flow decreases, and it can't repair itself as well.
So it's like our blood vessels are getting rusty as we age? That's a little depressing.
Well, it's not a perfect comparison,
Yeah.
but you get the idea.
Right.
The good news is we could do things to fight back against oxidative stress and protect our endothelium.
Okay, like what?
Eating healthy foods with lots of antioxidants, exercising regularly, and managing stress can all help slow down aging.
So basically the same things that are good for our hearts are good for our endothelium too.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Right.
And there's also research being done on using specific drugs that can target the aging process in those endothelial cells.
Yeah.
One promising type of drug is called senolytics,
Okay.
and these drugs specifically find and eliminate senescent cells.
Senescent cells, those are like the zombie cells that stop dividing but don't actually die, right?
Right.
I've heard they cause aging and inflammation.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
like bad apples in a barrel, spoiling everything around them.
Yeah.
And research suggests that if we get rid of these senescent cells, it can actually make the endothelium work better
Oh, wow.
and even reverse some of the aging effects.
So we could use these drugs to clean up the endothelium and make it young again.
It's definitely a cool area of research.
For sure.
Early studies show promising results in animals,
Yeah.
but we're still a long way from using them in humans.
Right.
There's still a lot more research to do to make sure they're safe and effective.
I get it. It's still early, but the idea of being able to target aging at the cellular level is mind-blowing.
It really is. And it all comes from this growing understanding that the endothelium is crucial for healthy aging.
That's amazing.
But there's another really interesting concept we should talk about. Remember how we were talking about the endothelium being like a systemically disseminated organ
Right.
reaching every part of the body?
Yeah, it's like this massive communication network constantly sending information about what's going on throughout the body.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that the endothelium could be like a biomarker for our overall health.
Okay.
By looking at how healthy the endothelium is, we can get a snapshot of how healthy our other organs and systems are.
Wow.
It's like having a window into the health of our entire body.
Wait, are you serious? We can measure how healthy our endothelium is to get a sense of our overall well-being. How would that even work?
Well, researchers are working on figuring out which specific molecules the endothelium releases
Okay.
that could be used as biomarkers for different health conditions.
Okay.
Imagine a blood test that could not only tell you if something is wrong, but also give you a full report on your health, from your heart, to your metabolism, to your immune system.
That would be incredible.
Right.
Yeah, it would be like having a personalized health report card that shows you what you need to work on and helps you make better decisions about your health.
Exactly. And with all the amazing advancements in our knowledge of the endothelium,
Yeah,
that future might not be so far away.
that's really cool.
We're heading towards a time where medicine will be personalized,
Wow.
where treatments and things we do to help people can be tailored to their specific needs and risks, all thanks to our understanding of this remarkable layer of cells.
It's mind-blowing to think about how much we've learned about the endothelium in just a few short years.
I know, right?
And I have a feeling we've only just begun to uncover its secrets.
I think you're right. As research continues, we'll have even more groundbreaking discoveries
Yeah.
that will change the way we understand and treat diseases. But before we jump into the future of angioscience, let's switch gears a bit and talk about some of the ethics involved in this fast-moving field.
Ethical considerations. That's an interesting point. What kind of ethical dilemmas are we talking about here?
Well, as we learn more about the endothelium, and its role in health and disease,
Right.
we're also developing powerful new tools that can change how it works.
Yeah, okay.
And this brings up important questions about how these tools should be used and who should be able to use them.
I see what you mean. If we can make tissues, repair organs, and maybe even reverse aging
Yeah.
by targeting the endothelium, we really need to think about what could happen, both the good and the bad.
Exactly. For example, if we create therapies that can make people live a lot longer,
Right.
who gets to use them?
Right.
How do we make sure it's fair? And what happens to society when people start living much longer lives?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
These are big questions that need a lot of thought and open discussion.
It's like opening Pandora's box. There's so much good that could come from it, but we have to be careful and understand the ethical implications.
Absolutely. And there are other ethical things to think about, too.
Like what?
As we come up with more complex ways to manipulate the endothelium, we have to be careful about unintended consequences.
Right.
Could these changes affect other parts of the body in ways we don't expect?
Yeah,
Could they accidentally cause new health problems down the road?
that's something to think about.
It's a reminder that the human body is super complex,
Yeah,
and anything we do to it, even with the best intentions, can have ripple effects.
for sure.
We need to be cautious and always put safety and well-being first.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to have these open and honest conversations about ethics.
Yes.
We need to involve the public, policymakers, and the scientific community to make sure that these powerful new technologies are used responsibly.
I agree. It's clear that the future of angioscience has a lot of promise and a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And as we keep learning more about this field, we need to remember these ethical questions.
Right. The endothelium has turned out to be way more complex and influential than we ever thought.
It has.
And as we learn more about it, we're faced with both amazing possibilities and huge responsibilities.
Well said. The endothelium has shown us that it's a far more complex and important system than we ever realized.
Definitely.
And as we continue to uncover its secrets, we have incredible opportunities and big responsibilities.
It's a good reminder that scientific progress should always go hand in hand with ethical considerations
Right.
to make sure that these discoveries benefit everyone.
Wow. It's amazing to think that we've spent this whole time talking about just one layer of cells, the endothelium.
I know.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much more to learn.
It really shows how complex the human body is and how connected everything is.
Yeah.
We started by thinking of the endothelium as the simple lining.
Right.
But it's obvious now that it's so much more than that.
It really is.
It's a dynamic organ, a communication network, a sensor, a regulator, and it could be the key to finding new treatments and even helping us live longer. Yeah. One of the things that really stuck with me is the idea that we can use the endothelium to tell us about our overall health.
Yeah.
It's like having this built-in system that's always checking how we're doing.
Exactly. The endothelium is always in contact with our blood.
Right.
So it's exposed to everything that's moving through our body.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And any changes in the endothelium can show us changes in other organs and systems.
So it's like having a window into the health of our entire body just by looking at the endothelium.
Exactly.
What kind of things are scientists looking at when they're trying to figure out how healthy the endothelium is?
Well, they're looking at a few things like blood flow, how permeable the vessels are, inflammation, and specific molecules that tell us if there's damage or if things aren't working properly.
Okay.
They're also using high-tech imaging to actually see the endothelium in real time to track blood flow and find any problem areas.
It sounds like we're moving towards this future where medicine is personalized,
Absolutely.
where treatments are tailored to each person's needs and risks, all because we understand the endothelium.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really
I
exciting.
know. I can't wait to hear more.
As we understand more about how the endothelium works,
Yeah.
we can start to develop targeted therapies to fix specific problems.
Okay.
Imagine being able to repair damaged blood vessels,
Yeah.
reduce inflammation,
Right.
or even help new blood vessels grow in areas that need them.
It's like having a tiny repair crew that travels through our body, fixing things at the source.
Exactly.
Are there any specific examples of how this kind of therapy might be used?
Absolutely. For instance, researchers are developing drugs that can actually stimulate angiogenesis. Remember, that's the growth of new blood vessels.
Right.
This could be helpful for conditions like peripheral artery disease, where blood flow to the legs and arms is restricted,
Oh, wow.
or to help wounds heal faster in people with diabetes.
That's incredible. And what about using the endothelium to deliver drugs or gene therapies right to specific tissues or organs?
That's another exciting area.
Yeah.
Scientists are working on tiny nanoparticles that can target endothelial cells directly.
Oh, wow.
These nanoparticles can carry drugs or genes, and then they're injected into the bloodstream.
Okay.
They travel through the circulatory system until they reach the right spot,
Cool.
and then they release their cargo directly to the cells that need it.
That's like having a guided missile system for drug delivery,
Yeah.
making sure the treatment goes exactly where it needs to go without affecting healthy tissues.
Yeah.
What an incredible advancement.
It is.
But with all this amazing technology and talk of medical breakthroughs, it's easy to get carried away.
Right.
We need to remember that there are still challenges ahead.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
One of the biggest is just how complex the endothelium is.
Right.
There's so many different types of cells, each doing their own thing,
Right.
and they're all constantly interacting with each other and their environment.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. It's
Right.
like trying to understand a whole ecosystem.
Right. And that complexity makes it tough to develop those targeted therapies that are effective but also safe. We
Exactly.
need to make sure that whatever we do doesn't have unintended consequences for other parts of the body.
Absolutely. And there's also the challenge of taking these scientific discoveries and turning them into treatments that doctors can actually use.
Right.
It takes time and resources to develop new drugs, run clinical trials, and get approval from regulatory agencies.
Yeah.
And even when a new treatment is available, it can take years for it to be used widely.
So it's a long road from the lab to the patient.
It is, but even with these challenges, the progress being made in angioscience is really amazing.
It is.
And as more research is done,
yeah.
we can look forward to a future where the endothelium is crucial for preventing and treating diseases and even helping people live longer.
It's been incredible to explore the world of the vascular endothelium with you today.
It has.
I feel like we've uncovered this whole hidden universe right inside our own bodies. What are some of the key things you hope our listeners will remember from this deep dive?
I hope they'll remember that the endothelium is so much more than just a simple lining. It's this dynamic organ that plays a crucial role in keeping us healthy, and when it's not working properly, it contributes to disease.
Yeah.
I also hope they'll remember how interconnected our bodies are and how changes in one part can affect everything else.
That's so important.
And lastly, I hope they'll be excited about the amazing progress being made in angioscience.
Yeah.
And how this research has the potential to change the future of healthcare.
Well said. And I hope everyone listening will walk away with a sense of wonder and a new appreciation for their own bodies.
Me too.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I want to thank you for guiding us through this incredible world.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the science that's shaping the future of healthcare.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the wonders of the natural world.